let's get into a reality section about the deep state because there's a suspicious murder floating around, and it has to do with a guy named Lynch. He had a company called Autonomy. Now, I do not want you to confuse this story. Do not
I
confuse this
heard that, dude.
story.
I heard that this week, and I was
Right?
like, oh,
Do
damn.
not confuse it with this fine operation of education over at getautonomy.info. We are talking in this story about a software company called Autonomy that is owned now by Hewlett Packard. And there were some shenanigans and there was some inflation of sales budgets and numbers. And there was some rippy-offy stuff, accusations of backdoors. It is very similar to my case from years ago, too, because software industry is natively corrupt. You're printing your own money and like handing it out for whatever is negotiated. So there's a lot of room for corruption in that industry. So I don't know too much about this Lynch guy. I do know the nature of his demise, and the nature of the timing of the demise is very one-sided in favor of the people who were taking up legalities. So it almost seems like maybe he's a corrupt guy and he does business with even more corrupt people. They might own a place called HP. And the place called HP, instead of saying, we're going to actually give you the 15 billion that we told you we'd give you for your company, maybe we just take your software and gank it and we keep our 15 billion and you die in a little yachting accident off the coast of Sicily with people around who didn't die from the weather and the storm, but your boat magically went down and there's nothing to see there. Now, I would say there's nothing to see there, except it's a nearly identical story to the Inslaw case from Danny Casolaro that we've featured for the past couple of weeks, because now it is culturally acceptable. Netflix has a Octopus Conspiracy miniseries to talk about things that we here in the truth freedom world have talked about for 20 years plus. And Casolaro was doing it back in the 90s, and he paid for it with his life. So when you hear stories like what you're about to hear, this is covered, by the way, on a spinoff from the PBD podcast. It's called The Usual Suspects. It's got like Vinny and some other people. And then they got that guy, Ian Carroll. I think they're in studio from Twitter. He's like been kind of notorious in the past couple months since the Israel-Palestine conflict. I have not seen the whole clip, but I am interested. And then I'm going to look over what LD just gave me here in the but that Mac Bracken guy, he's also PsyOps, former Intel. So we're going to look at that carefully, LD. Let's go to the usual suspects. Billionaires boating tragedy. Luxury yacht sinks off the Sicily coast. And we're not blaming the Sicilians, because that's very dangerous when you do that. Let's go and see what kind of corporate globalists or globalist corporatists might be participating in the sinking of, in that realm, their autonomy.
This guy, Mike Lynch, who's a billionaire from the UK, they call him like the Bill Gates of the UK.
Okay.
He invented a technology back in like the 2008 to 10 era.
Okay.
That, and I am no tech expert, but in reading about this technology that he sold to HP, Hewlett Packard, in 2011, and there's this big fraud case about him overvaluing it ever since, that they've been trying to put him away. This technology he made back then and sold back then, when you look at its description, what it does is it allows AI to monitor and analyze and then act upon video content, audio content, and live streams.
Gotcha.
Which, if you think back to the history of AI, we at a certain point started getting AI policed on the internet based upon what we say in videos and based upon what happens in our live streams. And that was an ability that AI achieved at a certain point. And so from what I'm hearing, it sounds like Mike Lynch was involved in the development of a part of that technology. Okay. So he sells his product, he makes a shitload of money, and then years later, they've been prosecuting him, trying to put him in prison in the UK. He beat that. They tried to put him in prison in the US. He beat that like a week or 2, 3, 4 weeks ago,
okay.
Right? They go out on this yacht to party, to celebrate that they just, so there's a 0.5% of cases that are being federally prosecuted in these courts, like, go free.
Oh, so he got a 0.5 and he won?
Had zero chance, like
basically
no chance of winning.
Is he the one who put a message out looking forward to vacationing or something, or having a break, or was that another one?
I don't know for sure.
I think it was a female on the boat with them that said something.
His wife was there. His daughter was there. The chairman of Morgan Stanley, Global, which is like one of the biggest banks in the world, was his really good buddy. Probably financed a lot of his stuff. Was on the boat with him. So that's so those are the two power players that were there.
And what was the money in? How much? Not to interrupt. How much money did they get to go celebrate?
It was
billions.
Well, he made over $11 billion off the sale, and HP claimed that he had inflated the value by more than $8 billion of fraudulent value.
Okay.
I don't know who's telling the truth in the case, but then suddenly so this boat sails across the Atlantic Ocean through all kinds of weather to go and pick them up in the UK or wherever they got picked up and go party on the coast of Sicily. They're anchored off the coast of Sicily.
Oh, so they're not in choppy water.
No, they're just anchored. Yeah, just chilling.
Damn.
And there are other boats anchored in the area because one of the other boats that survived the same storm was the first boat on the scene to rescue, because during the night, a storm comes along, a freak water spout, like a tornado in the water, which is a weather phenomenon that cannot be manufactured. I don't know. It just hits this boat, sinks this yacht, and in the middle of and suddenly very quickly, this yacht sinks and a bunch of the passengers drown. I think 15 people are rescued by the boat that comes on the scene and the Coast Guard that get there, but they're basically all the crew. And I don't know how or why, but basically all the crew, the regular folks, get rescued.
But
minus
the most important people are all
the
dead.
important people die, save for his wife. So people were speculating maybe he faked his death to go into hiding, but his wife survived. So his wife is in the hospital right now recovering from injuries, and she is now grieving her dead husband and daughter that were on the boat, which is a serious tragedy. But then it raises the question of what's going on here? But then it gets weirder because you start to look into it and you realize that his co-defendant in this case was one of his co-workers that was involved in founding the first company, and then went and worked at this AI cybersecurity company that they had founded that it is basically an AI cyber defense company that claims to be able to defend against zero-day exploits, which is the end of cyber attacks as we know it, if that claim is true. That's a huge claim.
Damn.
So this AI company called Darktrace, the guy that's in charge of it, he's the co-defendant in this lawsuit way back in 2011 that's been going for forever.
Yeah.
3 days ago or whatever, he gets hit by a car while he's out on a run.
Wait, what?
He gets hit by a car and dies.
Look, things just happen. There's a lot of
Sometimes
people
things
on
just
Earth.
happen.
Especially, it's just weird. Especially when there's billionaires and money and huge corporations like
Secrets.
Hewlett Packard.
Bingo.
Let me ask you: is there any dispute or any question as to whether or not there was, in fact, a water spout? There were witnesses.
I don't
who saw
believe
this?
there's a dispute. And the more I've dug into it, as far as I can tell, yes, the boat for sure sank. Yes, there was a storm. Yes, regular people that were around and witnessed and rescued, there is a rescue operation. They're currently diving on the boat. Today they brought up 2 more bodies that they haven't told anyone who they
That's
are.
how fast the boat sank.
It sank within an hour. It sank in a way that most of the people that died probably were trapped within the wreckage and couldn't escape.
Oh,
wow.
So there's something about the mast collapsing that caused the boat to split or fail or sink, whatever. There's a whole story with a woman with an infant, a 1-year-old that literally was in this storm in open water, swimming, holding her infant child. Apparently, according to her, the child was separated from her momentarily, and then she got it back, held it above the water,
Both
and
survived.
it survived. Apparently. I don't know.
If I may float a conspiracy theory here, Jewish space lasers or tornado. I'm being sort of sarcastic.
No, I'm with you, dude.
Is there any form of weather control that is known, disclosed
Not
to that
known.
specificity?
All I'm saying is maybe if they had painted their boat blue, it still would be with us.
remember?
I see what he did there.
Remember Joe Biden? Remember Joe Biden when I think he was about to do the State of the Union, and they were talking about Hawaii, and he's like, "Yeah, notice how the buildings that had blue over them, they all made it." It's what the hell are you talking about?
That was they had complained people were promoting that conspiracy theory, and he says it out loud. Theories. Someone can say, okay, they deliberately put it where they knew there might be a storm and then detonated whatever. We don't yet have any of that information.
It's just always weird. Because Rob, I want to go to you. It's just always weird. Anytime something major like this happens, like that airplane in Brazil that just flew out, fell out
Yeah, with the doctors.
The moment I saw it doing this, I went, who's on that thing? And then we found out that there was cancer doctors. It's never just a regular, a regular plane, a regular this. Rob, what do you think about this whole thing?
It's funny that you bring that up because there was a group of Chinese businessmen. Remember MH370?
Oh,
the plane
yeah.
that
up. Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
There was a plane that just went missing in the world, and nobody ever really questions where it went. I mean, we do.
Ashton Forbes does.
Ashton Forbes, dude,
Yeah, dude.
I'm telling you guys right now, and I think we were trying to have him on. The guy, Ashton Forbes, you guys haven't looked him up on X. He's
the one with the alien.
It's not really an alien, but guys, if you look at this video, that plane that Rob is talking about, Malaysian flight. Right?
MH370.
MH370. Guys, he's not only debunked all the fake stories about it, he has put $100,000 bet if anybody can disprove or debunk his claim. This video, because people were seeing the plane having smoke coming out of the back that were recording it. They made it like infrared where you could see it. There's smoke coming out of the back because I think he said that there was like a
bunch of lithium ion
on the bottom that burned, and then you see the plane, and then out of nowhere, guys, please look it up if you haven't seen it, 3 orbs start going around this airplane, and it doesn't, guys, the research he did with the fact that it hit the clouds and it can't be fake, and then as it's going, Viva, it just boom, like disappears. Live. Hold on.
Is he the one who threatened to sue everybody who said that his theory was?
No, he didn't threaten. He said, "I'll put $100,000. Try to disprove me, and I'll bet anybody. Nobody. You mean nobody in the entire world?
He's been debating everyone
and
very
nobody could
openly,
win.
very directly.
And on MH370 were 20 employees of the U.S. technology company Freescale Semiconductor. It makes powerful microchips for different sectors, including the defense industry. 12 employees that were on the plane were from Malaysia and 8 were from China. But look at the Titanic. Have you guys ever?
I was going to bring that.
Have you ever gone down the rabbit hole of the Titanic? That we're on? Yes. So there's always these weird, hey, there's a maritime or weird aviation accident, and there also happens to be these people that are either worth a lot of money or have access to secret technology that are on the manifest.
Like billionaires, and then there's just a tornado in one spot that kills all of them, and everybody else comes. And by the way, Roberto, remember you're going to say, in regard to the Malaysian flight, what year did it happen?
2013?
10 years ago?
2013. We're technologically advanced. By the way, not a piece. I know they said that some watched up. It was all bullshit. Like I was told, like not even a seat, like on an airplane. Where
pieces that washed up ended up having like barnacles on it that they said
it was so obviously fake.
Yeah, they could not have formed on that piece of equipment in that amount of time that it was in the water.
And by the way, they didn't find one chair. I'm told, I don't know about you guys, when I'm on an airplane, in case of a water landing, use your seat. It floats. We didn't find one.
Speaking of crazy accidents, you remember the submarine that blew up?
Yeah.
So you know how they knew that they had heard it? Remember how they heard it crumble, right? That is a like global detection system that heard it, right? It hears things in the ocean.
Yeah.
It was around. Ashton has gone into this. It was almost certainly around back when MH370 crashed into the ocean.
Yeah.
Where's the data on that sound? Right?
Well, I believe Don Lemon, journalist extraordinaire, contemplated it flew into a black hole. Not saying it didn't happen.
Did he say that?
Yeah, he did. He did.
I bet Don Lemon's flown.
Get Don Lemon on the case.
This one doesn't.
I know. Someone was going there. I want to message him, bro, and just be like, "Hey, Don, nobody hates you because you're black or you're gay. It's just you, douchebag."
If you guys just not to get off topic, if you watch him interviewing people on the Atlantic City boardwalk, he went and interviewed the dumbest of people, which is a common thing that we do, because you like to highlight.
It's Atlantic City.
People. Yes, there's
gambling and drinking.
But even compared to the dumbest of Trump supporters, Don Lemon was even more unlikable. I watched it. I was like, you just
Rob, the guy who said he was better off 4 years ago because he was making more money, and then Don says, "I know you feel that way, but the record shows that you're wrong." He's like, "Okay, I'll trust the record over my life, you dumbass."
He was doing fake news live in front of people. What a douchebag! He's like, "You're not better off, right?" He's like, "No, I'm in bad shape right now." He's like, "You don't know what you're talking about.
Don't believe your eyes.
Don't believe your paycheck." Yeah.
What I do love, though, about this whole thing is that it's either a massive conspiracy weather control to take down this ship, or it's literally God saying, "I don't like you. I squish you now." Like it's one of the two.
And either way, it's wild.
Yeah.
You know my love of dictatorships and dictators. You know who's winning? Kim Jong-il. He knew these things happen. You know, the Titanic, the planes, whatever. You know how he used to get around North Korea? An armored train. It can't fail.
Oh, really?
You know? Yeah. He's way ahead.
He still has an armored train.
Yeah, he has an armored train.
Well, it'll fail if Pete Buttigieg is in charge of it.
Too soon.
Just don't let Norfolk Southern build that.
The black hole thing. The black hole thing is hilarious. But dude, it's just like great story. It's just always weird. Anybody that goes. By the way, the fact that 0.5% chance of beating the federal government and you won, you think they're happy about that?
No. Well, the thing is that when technology advances, outside and within government control, right? Like, so sometimes the government is the one creating the cutting edge technology, but sometimes a smart dude in a garage makes something and they have to lock that shit down. Like, that is their job. And so over the years, Promise software is a really famous and good example. If anyone doesn't know about Promise, it's like the first computer program and it's the first big hack. Jeffrey Epstein was involved. The US and Israeli governments basically hacked the legal and justice systems of all of their allies and enemies using this software. And it was the exact same thing where a dude invented this revolutionary software back in like the 80s, like before there were really computers. And then the government basically did everything they could to bankrupt him because it was government contracting with paying his bills, and then to steal his product, and then they reverse engineered it and just used it themselves. And it's the same thing where like this guy invents this technology and he makes all this money off it, and then they basically like, okay, we'll send him to jail as much as we can. We'll get him to like, we'll shut him up that way. Oh, it didn't work? Oh, whoops, a tornado.
Sounds like almost, that sounds familiar. It sounds like a guy that I know. He has crazy blonde hair. He's orange sometimes. They tried to take him. They tried to put him in jail. And then they tried to shoot him in the head. And it didn't work.
Bang.
They're not going to...
And then his plane malfunctioned.
yeah.
And then his plane malfunctioned.
And JD Vance as well. Weird.
Well, guys,
Just to steelman it so that, jokes are one thing, but a water spout, when you have these things that happen in the open ocean, 99% of the time, no one will be there. The 1% of the time, if someone's there, it's either going to be a fishing boat or who has yachts, luxury yachts. It's going to be rich people. And then when this happens and it randomly catches a rich person, it certainly lends to some interpretation.
But it is always weird on who it is. What's up, everybody? Vincent O'Shaughnessy here.
Some breaking news now regarding the identification of those people who died in the sinking of that luxury yacht earlier this week off the coast of Sicily. We can now confirm via the source, a source close to the family of Mike Lynch, that the body recovered from the Bayesian yacht off the coast of Sicily has now been identified as that of Mike Lynch, the British tech entrepreneur. There had been reports on some of the news agencies quoting an interior official in Italy that Mike Lynch had been identified. We now have confirmation of that from a source close to the family. His body was recovered from that yacht that went down earlier this week following that very fierce storm near to the city of Porticello. The source close to the family also said that they believe the person still missing, who the search and rescue teams are still looking for in the waters around Porticello, is Hannah Lynch, Mike Lynch's 18-year-old daughter. So we know that a fifth body had been brought to shore. The search continues for one missing body, and the source now saying that they believe that person is Hannah, who's 18. There had been no formal identification because under Italian law, victims' families must be notified first before members of the media would be told. Investigators are still looking into what happened to that yacht. Mike Lynch's body was recovered, and we can now confirm via a source close to his family that he has been recovered from that storm. We've got a lot of tributes coming in to Mike Lynch. We've been talking to a number of people who've known him for very many years, people who set up businesses with him, people who worked with him. He was widely admired and liked and given so much credit for his innovation and his energy. Mike Lynch was a member of the BBC board. He was a director on the BBC board from 2007 to 2012, and the BBC's Director General, Tim Davie, has been paying tribute now that the death of Mike Lynch has been confirmed. Tim Davie said, "We are deeply saddened by the awful news about the deaths of those aboard the Bayesian yacht. Mike Lynch was an outstanding BBC director who made a major contribution during his time on the board during those 5 years. Wise, generous and insightful, he played a particularly key role in accelerating our transformation as a digital organisation. Our thoughts are with his family and all of the others involved." We spoke a little bit earlier to David Tabazel, who was a co-founder of the autonomy company with Mike Lynch. And he said, "It looks like we've lost our dear Dr. Mike Lynch. Rest in peace. The world has lost a genius, and his family have lost a giant of a man." And as we've been discovering, Mike Lynch sat on the boards of a great many prominent institutions. We've just mentioned that of the BBC. He also sat on the board of the British Library, and he was a fellow of the Royal Academy of Engineering. And he was given so much credit for the difference he made to the technological scene in the UK. Described by many people who knew him as a charismatic and clever man, regarded by some, in fact, as the UK's version of Bill Gates, the Microsoft founder, and our technology editor, Zoe Kleinman, has been...
It's interesting, you know, when you hear the thoughts coming from like the BBC Director General, you have to wonder, did he write that a week before the yacht got hit by the water spout? I mean, I'm half kidding. I don't really think they wrote it ahead of time, but maybe they had a meeting and they're like, everyone write your note to Mike and we'll make sure that the water spout happens on time. Without being conspiratorial, I'd like to show you this. It's just as convenient as a water spout taking out a yacht that Lynch's co-defendant in U.S. trial also died the same week. The tragic road accident, you know, he was running and he got hit by a car. And, you know, these things happen. You know, people, they have accidents and we shouldn't look too deeply into these things. Missing tech tycoon Mike Lynch's co-defendant in an $11 billion fraud trial, fatally struck by a car just days before the billionaire's yacht tragedy. You know, those things, they happen in threes usually. So whoever else is involved in this situation, they should watch out. These types of things, they're just accidents. And, you know, well, I'm hitting the right buttons tonight. It made me think of another person who was involved in software. There was a back door in the software. There was some skullduggery going on with it. And this gentleman was also a billionaire who also had a tragic yachting accident. His name was, do you know, Scott? Do you know the answer?
Yeah, Robert Maxwell.
Robert Maxwell, that's right. And what software was he selling?
That was the Promise
Promise
software.
Promise software. Yeah. Danny Casolaro, Octopus Conspiracy, which now Ian Carroll was repeating after watching the Netflix series. Apparently, because, you know, there's like a media monarchy. James Evan Pilato, Corbett has done stuff on Casolaro and Octopus Conspiracy. I've got a number of books here on the shelf. Like this is something that happened in the 90s that should be better known. It's another Gary Webb type of story. You start getting close to they, them, those and asking questions that could be brought to light of the public and they get very panicky. And a Michael Hastings Mercedes crashes into the tree type of way, right? Or the guy, Aaron, who was the guy that came up with RSS, Aaron Schwartz, right? There's a lot of people who are tech innovators. And sometimes they Ross Ulbricht them and just put them in prison and take you off the market so you can't compete. Or in the case of this guy, maybe they just run you over with a car real quick. Make sure that $11 billion, you know, the case dies when those guys are dead, right? The co-defendants, both defendants are, sorry, they're out of the picture, Judge. What do we do now? Right? So anyway, I think if we notice that, you know, cartels at a local level in your town would probably kill people for $10,000 over a skirmish, you don't think these people are going to kill people for $11 billion? Or Boeing whistleblowers, how, you know, I'm sure the actuaries are doing numbers and they're going to start having to pay more for their life insurance because those guys just drop off like the leaves at the end of the season. It's not good for freedom. These types of stories, like if this is an accident, this guy gets hit and it's just bad luck that those guys died in the same week and no one's when you ask Key Bono, like who benefits? Not the two dead guys. Who benefits from burning Crooks's body? Not Crooks and his family, I'm sure. The FBI and the Secret Service don't have to answer any pesky questions that could have been answered with his corpse. But anyway, you're just in the midst of the fog of war in a place that they're trying to drive into a civil war. And right now, let's just keep it on the 5th generational mind landscape. We don't need to bring it into like bullets and mortars reality. But these types of things, I mean, they killed those people or they didn't.
It seems like a really effective strategy. I mean, to
get rid of one's enemies.
Well, yeah, of course, obviously, you know, forever and ever and ever. But you know, it's such a strategy. You know, the plane crashes, the boats being sunk, and all that stuff, or the
plausible deniability is a big thing. Yeah,
exactly. But you know, even in this day and age, like it seems like a good, effective strategy for like look at the Boeing situation where you have all these whistleblowers. It's like, oh, all these Boeing whistleblowers just happen to die. And, you know, you just got to ride out the storm. You just got to use a little bit of media scrutiny. You got to let the conspiracy theorists run with it for a few weeks. And then, you know, about 6 weeks later, poof, it's like it never happened, you know? Or like Kevin Spacey, 3 of his like sexual assault accusers, like they all died. Like all of the people that were suing him for sexual assault died. It's like, there's a little bit of media, like the media will read a couple articles, you know, Alex Jones will say something and then everyone just goes back to sleep. And then you're on Tucker Carlson.
I mean, don't you think it's just bad luck for people who Kevin Spacey involuntarily parked his dick in?
Yeah, dude, that's probably
it's
like a double whammy, dude. You have to endure that, and then you get killed over it. It's horrible.
I believe when I reviewed their court documents, double whammy was one of the phrases used.
No, man. There you go.
It's just like a double bubble earthquake. That's a Adam Ray joke. Punchline. Sorry, stole it.
Everyone's doing some kind of self-help these days, and you can find a million self-help courses out there. Most other courses out there are hosting lectures. They're hosting videos, they're maybe even doing Q&As, and these are great starting points to encourage learning. But at Autonomy, we believe that hands-on practice is the best way to really lock in what we're learning. There's no better way to gain confidence and mastery than through action. After each lecture, we practice the concepts we've learned with other students, giving and receiving feedback in a non-judgmental environment. The result is mastery of concepts like entrepreneurship, ethical sales, and self-reliance in an environment that directly translates to the real world. Plus, you make connections with other like-minded individuals who are learning right alongside you, and you have a lifetime membership in the community. The Autonomy course with Richard Grove equips you with confidence, competence, and courage in a world filled with confusion and noise. You can learn more at getautonomy.info. We'll see you there.
What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested, in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man. Come on.